It's possible, although I remain skeptical. I think that Trump will stay on board with this approach for as long as it's likely to take. The problem with what Bannon said about the U.S. holding the cards is that it's only true as long as Trump remains engaged with that approach. And as we know from other issues, he has a tendency to change tactics as the situation on the ground changes. So I think the biggest question is whether Trump is willing to stay on board with this for as long as it's going to take to change Beijing's calculations.
The situation on the ground, by which you mean what? The electoral situation, the stock market situation, or what?
Sure, all of those things. The stock market downturn that will probably come if he imposes an extra $300 billion in tariffs. The political implications of the impact of this on agricultural communities in the U.S. The implications for the economy if we have a sort of broader slowdown in the real economy. All of these things are possible outcomes here, and I'm not sure that Trump is prepared to push through them for as long as it would take to succeed here.
But Jimmy, on one hand, this is a controversial policy, but there are people like Lloyd Blankfein, whom we just heard from, who see it as possibly a fruitful path to go down. And there are people on both sides of politics who actually agree that standing up to China is the thing to do. There's remarkable bipartisan support for at least part of this.
No, I think that's for sure. And I think that's often missed here, is that you have people on the left and the right who thinks there is something that has gone wrong with the U.S. relationship with China, that sees China having veered off this path to becoming South Korea or to becoming Japan, but becoming more totalitarian, actually moving its economy away from markets. So they think something had to change. Now, Steve Bannon, he's viewing this purely, I think, through a 1980s Cold War lens. I'm not sure that's appropriate. I don't think if you want to fight a Cold War with China the way we fought against the Soviet Union, when we fought the Soviet Union in the Cold War, we had allies. Steve Bannon doesn't seem to be too concerned about allies. We had a great interest in human rights in the Soviet Union. Steve Bannon's not interested in human rights. And again, to Jeff's point, we had a president with a deep, long-term commitment to this long twilight struggle. Will Donald Trump stick with this plan when we're not 3% unemployment, 3% growth, and 3% wages? Maybe we're 2% growth, 5% unemployment, and wages are flat.
Jimmy, that's kind of what I wanted to ask, which is now that this issue is so front and center, as it should be for the American public, that everybody agrees, even the president's critics, that he's doing the right thing, have we boxed ourselves into a corner? How do we come up with a deal that actually achieves these goals when it sounds like the Chinese really have no reason to agree to any kind of real reform?
Well, listen, I think the Chinese view this as an existential crisis, and they view their economic model as going hand in hand with the domination of the Communist Party. Now, saying that both sides think we should get tough in some way in China is not the same thing as saying that both sides think the tariffs are a good idea. I think that's certainly not the case. But I think politicians on both sides need to be frank with the American people that this is not going to be a pain-free endeavor. This is going to be a long-term struggle, whether it's through tariffs or going after Chinese companies. There will be economic pain, and not just farmers. And there's been very little talk about that, and we're not going to subsidize everybody who gets hurt.